Okay, we're going to finish with our stencil project. A couple things I wanted to do to embellish this for you is, first of all, I wanted to talk to you about cleaning the stencils. These are really thin, and you want to try and clean them as soon as you can, because the paint or the crowning touch or the glazes will build up around the edges and make little beads that you can't really see with the naked eye, and then when you lay them down to stencil the next time, it lifts it and you get some bleeding. So what I like to do, I use my bathtub a lot for cleaning stencils, and Simple Green or Crud Cutter or Dawn dishwashing liquid, and I will lay my stencils down in a couple inches of water and put the cleaning products in there, and sometimes if I'm working late I'll let it sit there till the next morning and then come in and use my stencil brushes, and it actually cleans the brushes too, and go over them like this in the bathtub. And that way you don't get any of these little pieces lifting up and bending, which will ruin your stencil, and it gets everything off the edges. And you usually find that you have to do both sides of them like that, but especially if you let them sit in a solution of Simple Green or Crud Cutter or Dawn dishwashing liquid, it'll come off really easily and you don't have to work too hard, and it saves the brush and saves your stencil, because you want to be able to use these over and over again. Okay, and then the other thing I was thinking about as I looked at this, I thought, well, it's still not quite finished enough for me, and I love this crowning touch. I use it so much, and so I'm going to do just a little bit more crowning touch around the edge of this to antique it and make it look like it's all one of a piece. So I got one of my standard white cotton towels, got it wet, just damp, it's not super wet, and I'm just going to take a regular small brush and go around the perimeter of this and get that crowning touch in all the nooks and crannies. And I'm just going to do two sides at once because I don't want it to dry too much to get away from me. But work it in there, and then take your wet rag and wipe it off. And sometimes I'll use the edge of it and just get a little bit around the edge so it looks antiqued a little bit. See, that looks just a little more finished than the side that doesn't have anything on it. And to me, that's what makes a piece look more professional, when it's got some glaze or wax or crowning touch or something to make it look like there was more than just one coat of paint on it. Or two, as this one actually has. And if you decide to go back and do this, the great part about the crowning touch is it dries fairly quickly, and in another couple hours I can go back and do my sealer, and we're going to use a really fun sealer today. I even like to have a little bit of this shading around the edge, and I'll use what's left on the towel like that and just go back in and work it in around the corners. And then the bird has a little ground to live on. And then go back to your clean part of the towel where it's wet and just buff a little bit off. And see, the first crowning touch that I did on the stencil is already dry, so it's not going to move unless I really, really go after it and rub hard. There, and that just looks, actually it's even just a little bit more there. Looks a little more finished. Okay, so there's my finished piece before the sealer. And the nice part about doing that smoky bronze a little bit more is now my zinc is showing. My zinc is showing. Okay, so we're going to use a fairly new product to seal our work called Matte Finishing Cream. I really love this. It's a cross between a clear coat and a wax almost. It's easy to apply, it gives you good sealing properties, and the best thing is it has a matte finish, so if you really love that chalky surface on the chalk-based paint, it's going to keep that for you, and it won't make it look shiny, and you won't see any kind of clear coat on the top. What we do is apply it with a brush and go over it with a rag and let it dry, and then we're going to apply it with a brush again and finish applying it with the rag and let it dry. This isn't something that you have to buff off and work a lot like you do with some of the wax sealers on the market. And what this is a sealer that's going to do a chemical bond with the surface and protect your artwork. So it's not a hard finish or technique, and it's not something that requires a lot of work, which is always nice. You don't want to do it too heavy. Remember, you're just applying a light sealer, and I always think that 2 coats of a light finish are better than 1 coat that's too heavy, because most problems that we encounter with applying these decorative paint finishes is A, using too much product, and B, not waiting long enough in between the applications of the layers. So you can see that's a soft overall 100% coverage, and I'm going to finish applying it with the rag. Not a lot of rubbing. It's almost like when you put lotion on your skin, you're not really rubbing hard on it, you're just applying it so that it goes into the skin, goes into the wood. And it has a really nice quality where it spreads out. I can see it on the surface. It's a thin coat, and it's real uniform. It melds and melts really nicely. So that's my first coat. We'll do a second coat of exactly the same thing in a couple hours when this is dry, and this will be good to go.